at all what it first appears to be? Part 12. This appears to be a picture of a couple on vacation in Hawaii, but it was actually taken of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell on November 5th, 2019, when they got married only a few weeks after Vallow's 2 children went missing. And the couple had been under suspicion for their disappearances, but on June 10th, 2020, it was confirmed that the human remains found on Daybell's property belonged to the children.
And today on Serial Killer TikTok. So my friend was asking me about active serial killers, and I figured, why not make it a video? Let's start with Pedro Lopez. Now, he claimed to have killed 300. However, I figure you're probably a little skeptical on that one. So were the police. But then Pedro went ahead and led them to a singular mass grave holding 53 of his victims. Now, he was only charged with 110 of these murders. So he's arrested in 1980, but due to the laws in Ecuador, he could only be sentenced to 16 years, which he only served 14 of. Then he gets rearrested as an illegal immigrant and sent back to Colombia. There, he gets charged with a 20-year-old murder and declared insane and put into a mental hospital. And then in 1998, he's declared sane and released. We'll skip forward to him selling his mom's chair and bed on the streets and then vanishing. There's even reason to believe he's been connected to a murder since then.
Creepy Things, Part 43. In 1931, a physician named Dr. Carl Tanzler fell in love with one of his patients. Unfortunately, his love alone was not enough to save her from her tuberculosis, so she died. He visited her grave every night for 2 years until he lost his job. After that, he stole her corpse and brought it home with him. Her body was found held together by coat hangers, wax, and silk. He even placed glass eyes inside her skull to maintain her structural integrity. He lived with her corpse for 7 years until he was caught and arrested.
On this episode of Where Are They Now? Criminal Edition, I'm going to be giving you an update on one of the worst monsters in history, Christopher Lee Watts. On November 19, 2018, Chris was sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, including 84 years on additional counts for the murder of his wife and 2 daughters. Here's a quick recap. On August 13, 2018, Chris strangled his then-wife Shanann and smothered his daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste. When his wife was reported missing, Chris made up a story to police and even gave this callous interview to the media. Chris was arrested 2 days later and confessed to the killings. Since December 5, 2018, Chris has been housed at the Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin and spends 23 hours in isolation. The now 35-year-old Chris Watts has resigned to the reality that he will spend every day of his life in prison, has stated that he has found religion, is full of regret, and that he reflects on his sins daily.
This is why you should always pay attention to your fear. In 1951, an elderly woman sitting in her chair unexpectedly burst into flames and incinerated. Inside of her apartment, authorities found her cremated remains. Her skull had shrunk to the size of a cup, and the only thing remaining was her unburned foot, still wearing her satin slipper. This wildly confused medical experts because in order for a body to be cremated, it must burn at 3,000 or 4,000 degrees for 4 hours. Yet, the surrounding area of her room was largely unburned. In the corner where she sat, the walls were undamaged, and the stack of newspapers by her chair were unburned. Investigators stated they could not conceive of a full cremation without more fire damage to the apartment. Also, when most humans are caught on fire, they run and jump. She never left her chair.
This woman turned people into soap. She was an Italian serial killer and soap maker, and in 1939, she found out that her favorite son was joining the Italian army to fight in World War II, and she wanted to protect him and somehow came to the conclusion that she needed to make human sacrifices. And she didn't look far for her victims. They were all 3 middle-aged women who were her neighbors. She would lure the women away with the promise of helping them, but then drug, kill them with an axe, and then cut up their body into pieces that she used to make soap. And then she even took some of their blood and made tea cakes out of it, which she would serve to people who came over to her house. And when suspicion started to fall on her, she denied everything initially. But then people began to question her son's involvement, and she immediately admitted to everything in detail so that no blame would go into her son, and she was found guilty of all of her crimes.
Let's talk about some more childhood ruining facts, part 3. Big Bird almost joined NASA's Challenger mission to encourage kids to get interested in space. Had the plan been followed through, millions of kids would have watched Big Bird and the spacecraft explode live on TV. Judith Barcy, who played Ducky in The Land Before Time and Anne-Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven, was shot in the head and killed by her abusive father when she was 10. Her father then murdered her mother, doused their bodies with gasoline, and set them on fire. He then shot himself in the head. Judith's gravestone reads, "Yep, yep, yep," which is a quote from her Peppy, the Land Before Time character. Dr. Seuss cheated on his wife Helen Palmer, who was sick with cancer. As a result, she killed herself by overdosing on barbiturates. Her suicide note read, "I am too old and too enmeshed in everything you do and are, that I cannot conceive of life without you. My going will leave quite a rumor, but you can say I was overworked and overwrought. Your reputation with your friends and fans will not be harmed." Like, follow, and comment for more, and let me know what you want to see in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
Last summer, I went on an adventure.
Turned on to Wakahuta Road, and we are moving towards Mother Anna's compound.
I went to Micanopy, Florida to find Mother Anna's compound, a woman who had been captured by the FBI for child murder in the 1980s.
Did you feel that? Did you feel the weird vibes?
Using a combination of local news articles and Google Maps, I was able to find the house with my friend Morgan. Mother Anna ran a commune called the House of Prayer for All People, and she abused and manipulated not only the adults, but the children within the cult.
Super scared. I'm gonna do it. What's it say? Brother. Okay, I can't quite read what that says.
I don't know what she's doing.
Is in the DTJ.
Oh, hell no. This is why I sit in the car.
This is by far one of the weirdest cults that I've ever researched before. So in the 1920s in LA, May Otis Blackburn and her daughter Ruth started this cult called the Great 11 Club, and it was entirely run by women. They said that they were contacted by 2 angels and were told they needed to write a book revealing all the secrets about the universe. They also believed that once the apocalypse happened, 11 queens would rule the world from Hollywood mansions. Honestly, sounds like a good time to me. So this is May's stepbrother and husband, Ward. He really contributes nothing to the story except that he was a pedophile and has 5-inch fingernails. For the most part, it was just a money laundering scheme, but they did call this thing the Light of God, and like now that we're worshiping cats, I'm down. Eventually though, shit did get really weird because they started sacrificing animals and then kept a dead girl in a bathtub for 3 years. Check out episode 61 for more info.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you in 30 seconds why this person is the worst person in the entire world. Let's just get one last look at her face, because you're going to want to remember it. Okay, so in December 2018, she joins a cult, like a doomsday, the world is ending kind of cult. She falls in love with the cult leader because, duh, nobody saw that coming. She tells her husband that she thinks he is possessed by zombies, okay, and that she was put here to carry out God's work for the end of the world in July. That's July 2020, which, bitch, you got 30 days. The husband realizes she's crazy, files for divorce, but then boom, he is mysteriously shot and killed by her brother, okay? She throws a pool party at his house the day he dies, okay? Grabs the 2 kids, flees to Idaho, which, shocker, that's where the cult leader lives. That month marks the last known footage of her 2 kids on a trip to Yellowstone Park, then vanished. A month later, his wife mysteriously dies, and then they get married 2 weeks later. She's arrested in order to produce the kids. She doesn't. She still is on trial now and has not said where they are.